There, my name is Thomas O'Regan. I'm a professional property investor here in Australia. Now, there's a great debate that is called the cash flow versus capital growth debate, and I'm here to tell you over the last from growing a property portfolio to 11 properties over the last 4 years that is worth $4 million that we started with $45,000 of our own money to get there. I can tell you there is no capital growth versus cash flow. There's no such thing as capital growth versus cash flow. You can literally have both. That's what I have had in my property portfolio. That's what I look for when I invest or when I buy properties, and that is the only reason that we have been able to get our property portfolio to the size it is, in the speed that we've got it there. So if, as we are, you're focusing on capital growth and cash flow, these properties are out there, you can scale your property portfolio much faster. Now, if you were to take a cash flow versus capital growth approach, you would be sacrificing, if you took a cash flow approach, you would be sacrificing the equity gains you could potentially get, which would be producing your next deposit for your next property over and over and over again as you buy more and more properties for cash flow. And you'd basically have to save up cash every time you buy a property. But if you went on the other hand and you just went, I just want capital growth properties, then you're effectively saying, I'm looking for a property that has terrible cash flow, but it has high capital growth, and then you have no problem getting a deposit for a property, but you hit a barrier because you are not able to service with the bank at a scalable level to grow your property portfolio to a large number that's substantial, right? And if you don't understand what I mean by borrowing capacity, I've got many videos on borrowing capacity. But basically, as your debt levels grow, which is ultimately going to happen if you scale a property portfolio to a larger level, you need to increase your income to support that debt. And when I say increase your income, a lot of people get confused and they think that means you need to get a pay rise every time you buy a new property. No, it doesn't. Not if you're buying cash flow properties. Properties that have cash flow and capital growth potential. So if you're buying properties that have cash flow and capital growth potential, every time you buy a property, you are effectively giving yourself a pay rise because the property itself has good cash flow. So it supports the debt as you scale. So I personally look for properties that have good cash flow and they have good capital growth. So the value of the properties go up very quickly and the cash flow is already high. So what happens as I go from one property to the next property to the next, every single time I acquire a property, the rental income or the cash flow is enough to cover all the expenses. So that's how me and my wife have been able to scale our property portfolio to 11 properties in the last 4 years. Hopefully, if you guys get something out of this video, if you have any questions, please hit me up in the comments. I'm happy to answer any questions relating ideally to property investing and strategies around that. See you guys next time. Bye.